Hello, everyone. I'm Karen Adkins with the National Geospatial Programs User Engagement Office, and you are joining us for the August 2024 USGS Hydrography Community Call. Our topic today is a statewide modeling tool for stream crossing projects in Massachusetts, and our presenter is Luke Sturdivant from the USGS New England Water Science Center. I am going to make a couple of quick announcements. First, the 3D National Topography Model, or 3D NTM, Data Collaboration Announcement, or DCA, has a deadline coming up in September. The DCA, for those who are not familiar with it, is the mechanism used for non-federal entities to partner with the USGS and other federal agencies to acquire high-quality hydrography data for 3D HP. And that deadline that's coming up is the initial deadline for project submissions. And that deadline is September 13, 2024. I am going to drop the links into the chat so you have that. The first link is the 3D NTM portal and where you can learn about the DCA, get some general information, and you can go to the 3D HP data collaboration announcement from there, but I've also dropped that in the link as well. And in case we run out of time before the end of the call, wanted to let everyone know that our next call will be in October. It will be October 22nd, and we will be presenting 3D hydrography program updates. There will not be a call in September. The NGP staff will be attending the National States Geographic Information Council, the NSGIC annual meeting from September 22nd through the 27th in San Antonio, Texas. Okay. Oops. May stop sharing. And I am going to turn the floor over to Luke Sturdivant. Luke, feel free to present. I will go off camera. And before we proceed, please, everyone, as you're joining, mute your mics and hold questions until the end. You're welcome to drop questions in the chat at any time. And when we are taking questions, you can raise your hand and speak, or you can drop those questions in the chat. So thank you very much, Luke. I will let you take it away.
Thanks, Karen. I appreciate it. We're excited about this project, so we like any opportunity to be able to share it with a wider community. So as Karen said, I'm Luke Sturdivant. I'm with the USGS New England Water Science Center. I sit in the main office primarily, and I've been part of this project for Massachusetts, the Stream Crossings Hydraulic Modeling Project, for a couple of years now. And we are doing this in cooperation with Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection through the Wetlands and Waterway program, and also partners at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. So just some basic information. Stream crossing is any stream or river that is intersected by a man-made structure, such as a road infrastructure, that can impede the natural water course during flood or natural flow conditions. There are three main types of stream crossing designs that are being considered for our project: the pipe, box, and arch culvert. And we have some other limitations. We're also only considering structures that are less than 20 feet wide, with a drainage area of less than 2 square miles. Because anything larger than 20 feet is considered a bridge or a much larger structure that has a lot more regulation tied to it. And the drainage area threshold is selected as a function of the bank fold channel geometry regression equations for the state. which estimates greater than 20-foot spans beyond 2 square miles. And we're also only considering structures on mapped urban and rural roads that are not maintained by Massachusetts DOT or Fed Highway or on interstates. And since the regression equations, the peak flow equations for this state were not developed in heavily urbanized areas, we're also filtering out locations that have more than 10% urbanization within a basin. However, we are currently working towards developing urban peak flow equations throughout New England. So Massachusetts, as well as other states, are developing standards for stream crossings because they're essential for maintaining aquatic connectivity for vulnerable species of fish and terrestrial wildlife, and maintaining the natural water course in stream bed, and designing structures that meet minimum hydraulic standards that have more capacity to pass normal flow and flood flow conditions are essential for flood resiliency. There is also consideration to account for future flood flow conditions due to climate change as well. So a little bit of background here. There are a lot of stream crossings in Massachusetts, as you can imagine, in most states. But in Massachusetts, there's over 25,000 stream crossings, and many do not pass the 10% annual exceedance probability flood flow, or the 10-year recurrence interval flood flow. And many don't pass standards for aquatic organism passages. So the state agencies and municipalities are looking for a tool to help standardize and prioritize a more comprehensive planning process for culvert replacement projects to increase flood resiliency and aquatic organism passages by adhering to these state regulations throughout the state. So, as was said, many of these culverts are undersized, which often results in stream bed scour that can significantly lower the stream bed downstream of the culvert, creating a drop or a perch from the culvert outlet to the water below. And native fish can only jump about 1 foot or so. So culverts that are perched more than 1 foot become barriers to these fish migrating upstream. Poorly designed culverts can also restrict natural sediment transport, which causes a lot of problems. It can cause, sedimentation deposition on the upstream side and cause some backwater problems during flooding events. As you can see in this picture, that backwater can really intensify the effects of flooding by increasing flow velocities as water exits the structure, causing even worse scouring in the stream bed and the banks downstream, while increasing the flood elevations due to backwater on the upstream side of the culvert, and eventually overtopping the road and causing road washouts and complete structure failures. These problems are becoming more and more prevalent due to heavier rainfall events, as we have seen throughout the nation, especially in our neck of the woods here in New England. We've had some pretty big storm events that have just blown out culverts and roads all over the place. Let's see. Oop. Sorry. This is just another image showing a massive blowout of a culvert structure that was undersized in Massachusetts in just the recent years here. So in 2012, Massachusetts Department of Fish and Game published a Massachusetts Stream Crossing Standards Handbook that provided a set of guidelines for how new or replacement culvert crossings should be constructed. And for our study, the culvert designs meet the following stream crossing standards that are highlighted here. No, it looks like my little animation's not going to play. That's okay. It's the top one there, a minimum span of 1.2 times the bank full width, a minimum openness ratio of 0.82. That's the culvert cross-sectional area divided by the culvert length. And it also adheres to the natural substrate for a stream channel bottom in the culvert. This is done by using the three-sided box, arch culvert, and embedded pipe designs. So Massachusetts DOT maintains about 6,400 or so of these structures throughout the state, and which that then means there are over 18,000 structures that are maintained by municipalities and private owners. And these municipalities often lack that technical expertise and resources to assess and design new structures that comply with these stream crossing standards. And they'll typically replace structures that have failed with the same structure design. This is a practice that's called in-kind replacement, and it's something that the state agencies are taking steps to avoid. But realizing that budget is often the major limiting factor, the state agencies have developed what's called a maximum extent practicable, or MEP, design criteria range that all proposed culverts projects must meet. So this is kind of, I don't know if it's going to play, unfortunately, on my my end. It's kind of a flow diagram that's showing how in-kind replacements can typically happen. Are you all seeing the animation play at all? Like, I'm not seeing it on my end, but are you just seeing like a trigger event? That's it?
I think we're just seeing the trigger event.
Okay, I'm not sure how to make it play. Sorry about that.
Are you?
Oh, maybe it goes.
Yep,
Okay.
I'm seeing it now.
Oh, technology. Okay. So an event gets triggered or triggers something that requires a culvert replacement. And there's typically little or no planning that's involved here for minimal design analysis. And they'll typically just put in another of the same type of culvert that just will cause another problem later on down the road. So the proposed idea is that to remediate this, the state is having a hydraulic stream crossing model tool that can provide culvert design options that meet the minimum hydraulic design flow requirements, but also provide some design options that are compliant with Massachusetts stream crossing standards. So like during early phases of this, there can be some more planning involved, as well as applying for grants that could help with the budgeting side of things. And then there would be an official design analysis that should be conducted to ensure the replacement culverts meet the certain flood resiliency and ecological restoration standards. So this is kind of a basic graphic just depicting that MEP, or maximum extent practicable criteria range. Any project that doesn't incorporate the baseline hydraulic design is unacceptable for culvert replacement projects. And any plan that at minimum includes the baseline design and or elements of the Massachusetts Stream Crossing Standard to the MEP criteria is within the acceptable project range. That baseline standard for hydraulic design is based off from the Massachusetts DOT hydraulic design flows for various functional road classifications. For example, the hydraulic design flow for most of the rural and urban roads is 10 to 4% annual exceedance probability, or the 10-year to 25-year recurrence interval flood flow. And the hydraulic design flow for high traffic road classifications, such as interstates and highways, is typically 1% AEP, or the 100-year flow event. And there are various ecological factors that should be considered when planning for culvert replacement projects, such as stream habitat qualities, wild scenic river, cold water fisheries, etc. The stream connectivity restoration potential. So UMass Amherst and MassDEP have been developing a rating system to quantify the ecological impact for given stream crossings based on those factors. And the ecological rating is based off these various categories seen here on the stream connectivity restoration potential. The higher the score for a given stream crossing, the more important the stream crossing standards should be met for a specific culvert replacement. The images on the bottom of the screen show the basic concept of how stream crossings can impact habitat quality. The image on the left shows brook trout colonies in purple, which allow them to freely move throughout the stream network. The image in the center shows the introduction of road crossings that do not allow for proper aquatic passage, which effectively isolates portions of the stream network and decreases fish populations and hinders migration. The third picture shows culverts that have been replaced according to the stream crossing standards, opening these critical linkages for aquatic passage, and the brook trout can migrate freely between the stream network. So in 2019, state agencies convened a Massachusetts Culverts and Small Bridges Working Group that recommended the development of innovative tools and modeling to assist in simplifying and expediting culvert and bridge sizing to help provide improved flood resiliency and aquatic organism passage, stream continuity, and river and floodplain processes. The USGS then began the first phase of this study by investigating the feasibility of developing this statewide hydraulic modeling tool. And we published a geonarrative that presents the conceptual ideas and components of the proposed web-based application that would enable these municipalities and engineers to view preliminary culvert designs for both new and replacement stream crossing projects in Massachusetts. Thanks, Karen. The feasibility study helped formulate the goals and objectives for future phases of this project. We were to develop automated and semi-automated methods to build hydrology and hydraulic models for culvert designs that comply with the standards that have been put in place. And we are to publish our data and research through USGS SIRs, or scientific investigation reports, and data releases, and we also are going to be publishing on our existing USGS StreamStats web application for Massachusetts. And we'll also be doing a lot of outreach and training on our publications to help state agencies and municipalities prioritize and develop a more comprehensive plan for culvert replacement projects throughout the state. So in phase 2, we had USGS field crews survey 46 sites throughout Massachusetts in various terrain settings and watersheds that select North Atlantic Aquatic Connectivity Collaborative. That's a mouthful, but it's what we call the NAC. And if you haven't heard of the NAC, I highly recommend checking it out. The NAC and SARP, Southeast Aquatic Restoration Project, or something like that. It's a stream continuity project. Fantastic database of culvert and stream crossing locations throughout New England and beyond, I believe, that have a bunch of assessments that are done on these stream crossings and have pictures of the locations and different measurements that are taken. It's a fantastic database. Anyway, we had some hydraulic modelers use the field data to develop detailed models of preliminary box, arch, and culvert designs that convey the 10 and 4% AEP flood flows and meet the stream crossing standards. And then we had our GIS team develop automated tools to derive model input data from LiDAR digital elevation models to simulate the field data. The automated GIS input data are then formatted to be ingested into HECRAS software. And we have developed an iterative routine that interfaces with HECRAS to build test hydraulic structures designs so that we can determine the optimal preliminary culvert design that meets the specifications. The automated GIS output have been analyzed and compared with field models. And we currently have, I think, roughly 14 fully automated GIS derived sites that are completely published and in a data release and hosted on USGS StreamStats application, with the remaining sites going through peer review now. The scientific investigation report is also coming that describes the methods and all of the results. And that'll be published later this year. Both the field and survey, the field survey and the automated GIS hydraulic models consist of 4 stream cross sections. The upstream approach, seen here as number 1, is the cross section that's placed along the stream channel where natural flow conditions occur upstream. The upstream face cross section is placed at the culvert inlet where flow is restricted into the culvert structure on the upstream end. The downstream face cross section is number 3, and that it's placed at the culvert outlet on the downstream end. And then we have a downstream exit cross section that's placed where natural flow conditions return. We currently don't have a consistent and systematic way to detect what normal flow conditions for placing the approach and exit cross sections purely from digital LiDAR data. So our method places these cross sections 2 bankful widths upstream and downstream from the culvert face cross sections, respectively, for the time being. The upstream face and downstream face cross sections placements are determined by passing the smooth Z and M values from LiDAR derived stream center lines. So that's the elevation Z values and the station values, M values, of a LiDAR derived center line that gets passed through an extrema algorithm. And this algorithm detects the closest inflection points on either side of the road deck location. The downstream face cross section can often be challenging to locate. So a slope test was performed to ensure that the nearest point to the road embankment on the downstream side has an elevation that's less than or equal to the upstream face inflection. And it's, I should say, it's less than or equal to because of the nature of LiDAR, especially in flat wetland areas. So it can be kind of problematic with the interpolation. And we're currently using regression equations developed to estimate bankfold channel geometry, as I said earlier, to compute the stream bank width and depth. In most cases, the interpolated elevations capture the water surface elevation height during LiDAR collections. And there can also be interpolation artifacts where banks are really steep and channels are narrow, causing artificially higher elevations in the DEM. And for that reason, our cross-section elevations use estimated depths to simulate trapezoidal channel geometry, effectively lowering the elevations between the bank points on the cross-sections. Massachusetts peak flow regression equations are also used to estimate the flood flows based on the drainage area, which is LIDAR derived, percent storage, and rainfall frequency within LIDAR derived watershed boundaries for every stream crossing location. Our coding team has developed automated routines to ingest geospatial data to generate HEC-RAS input files. These scripts will iteratively generate and run hydraulic model designs through HEC-RAS software to determine the optimal preliminary culvert design. Excuse me. That passes the Massachusetts DOT baseline flood flows and box and arch designs that pass the standards for 0, as I mentioned before, 0.82 openness ratio and 1.2 times the bank full for the span. The HEC-RAS controller is used to automate the model runs using dimensions of precast culvert structures through an iterative process, starting at the smallest precast culvert design and incrementing by a half a foot intervals for the span and rise throughout the process. The next few slides will show images depicting this iterative HEC-RAS modeling process. Here we see the flow, which is designated as Q, coming in from the right and passing through the culvert to the left. The light gray area above the culvert is the road surface and embankment fill area, and the darker gray area below the culvert is the stream bed or subsurface. And the blue area represents the 10% AEP or 10-year flood flow event. The different symboled blue lines show the water surface elevation for larger flood flow scenarios. And in this case, all flood flow scenarios are overtopping the road, which will cause the structure to fail. The program continues to increase the culvert dimensions. In this case, all flood flows are still not passing through the structure. Here we see the 10% AEP can pass through the culvert, but with significant backwater, and all the other profiles will still overtop. So it continues to iterate, increasing the dimensions. It'll continue until it sees the 10 and 4% AEP, or the 10 and 25-year flood flow event, pass through the culvert with headspace. So there's very little to no backwater involved. And that would be the baseline minimum requirement for the maximum extent practicable. But then it continues on until the 2 and 1% AEP, which is the 50 and 100-year flood flow, passes through with headspace and very little backwater. And it also continues on to make sure all the flood profiles will pass through. The final design from the program continues to iterate through the culvert dimensions to determine the optimal design that passes the stream crossing standards as well, as far as the dimensions and passing all of the flood profiles through. So these are some of the box plots that show the provisional comparison results. We're still working on these, but the plots show differences in results for all 46 sites across the state between the automated GIS models and the field survey models. The left box plot is showing the difference in water surface elevation at the inlet and compares all 4 flow scenarios for the different culvert designs. The right box plot shows the difference in culvert span and rise dimensions, showing no significant difference for the box and pipe. but the arch has some differences, and that is likely due to the jumps in sizes of the precast designs. It's typically between 2 and 4 feet of a jump. And some of the other potential issues that are causing the differences here is that our automated cross-section placements compared to field survey cross-section placements are not in the same place. It's an automated approach, so they're not going to be apples and apples, I guess. So the we're seeing some differences, more major differences at the downstream end, the culvert face of the downstream end. And I think that's due to an elevation issue where often there's a steep embankment and the cross section just gets placed at the nearest location that has a slope from the upstream end, which might not be the right location if you're surveying or actually looking at the structure. So that placement is often problematic and could be causing a lot of the outliers that we're seeing. We now have select sites from phase 2 published in a data release and available in the USGS StreamStats web application for Massachusetts. We have the remaining sites, as I said, are going to be available very soon. Right now they're on a test server for us to test out, but they'll be on the public facing application shortly. On StreamStats, users have the ability to view and select available stream crossings to generate a downloadable report that includes the preliminary culvert design options for the box, arch, and pipe culvert structures that meet the MEP requirements. And the report also includes habitat quality information and scores that are pertinent to the stream crossing standards, and also includes drainage basin characteristics. You can also download the drainage basin and hydraulic model files right from StreamStats, which is a really nice option. So if people wanted to, they could take and use that preliminary culvert design and tweak it as they see fit. So now that we have established an automated approach to building these hydraulic models at stream crossing locations, we're moving on into a more production mode phase. We'll be publishing the data releases in SIR for phase 2 development while we're continuing to run the process on a larger scale and reviewing those results and tweaking the automated process as needed. As we kind of expand this out, we're sure to run into more problems, just the nature of digital data and automated stuff. So, and we'll continue to process select sites throughout Massachusetts and host the preliminary hydraulic designs and data on StreamStats through a web map service. And that is all I had. Big thanks to the rest of the team that's not represented here, the project leader, Gardner Bent, and our hydraulic modeling team, GIS coding team. We have some folks at WIM, Web Informatics, that have been fantastic, very, very helpful for helping get us all the data onto StreamStats. It's been fantastic working with them, and all of our colleagues at MassDEP and UMass.
And I appreciate everyone joining us today. And again, our next hydrography community call will be in October. We will not have a call in September. So thank you everyone for attending. Really appreciate the questions and the comments, and excellent presentation, Luke.